G'day. Today we're going to be talking about taking responsibility. And this whole video can be summarized by the following idea. Even if it's not necessarily your fault, it is still your responsibility, especially for the random things that happen out of nowhere, out of the blue, completely by accident. This is an attitude, a mindset, a growth mindset that will lead you towards more success. Why? Couple of reasons. Firstly, you will simply be more likable and respectable as a person if you take more responsibility. Nobody likes a whinger, a person who walks around with an aura of negativity. Instead, they like and are drawn to people with solutions. People feel reassured by the presence of someone who knows what they're doing, even if that person doesn't actually know what they're doing. As long as you give the impression that you know what you're doing, and you are working towards finding a solution to whatever problem you are facing, that will be enough as a start. It is more than what most people would do. Most people would go and look for someone else to blame, someone else to point the finger at, someone else to come along and solve the problems for them. But more importantly, taking responsibility for everything in your life sets you up for success because it is a growth mindset. By assuming responsibility for absolutely everything that happens in your life, you automatically internalize the belief, the idea that everything is within your locus of control, and therefore you will be able to influence every single outcome. And just as importantly, you will learn from the events that happen in your life. For example, someone came and stole your girlfriend. Instead of blaming the other person for coming and taking what is yours, you should instead use this and see this as a point of reflection, as a point of feedback, letting you know that you are not yet at where you need to be in order to keep someone like your girlfriend around. Well, I guess it's your ex-girlfriend in this case. And use that as fuel to become better. Use it as motivation to drive you forwards. Speaking of driving down a new road and missed your turn? Instead of blaming your passenger for not warning you early enough, you should instead use this as a learning opportunity. Take responsibility and realize that you should have familiarized yourself with the route that you plan to take ahead of time and slow down on roads that you're not familiar with. Even though this is a simple example, this idea applies broadly to every aspect of your life. Look, I'm not saying to apply this idea literally for everything in your life. For example, you can't control where it will flood. You can't control where lightning will strike. You can't control what country will go to war next. But you can take precautions. You can move away from areas that you know are prone to flooding, are prone to lightning strikes. You can move away from regions that are already in conflict. I understand that these actions you can't do on a whim and require planning, but this is how you take responsibility for things that are seemingly outside of your control. Basic risk management. Your homework is to reflect on this idea of taking responsibility and see where in your life you instinctively shirk away from responsibility. Perhaps your parents stay up loudly past midnight and therefore you blame them for your poor sleep. Instead of blaming them, ask, what can you do? What can you do to take responsibility for your outcome? Ask them to be quiet. Now, you will say, oh, but they will refuse to be quiet. That begs the question, why do they refuse you? Are you worthy of telling them what to do? I'll make a video on this idea another time. Soon, I promise. In the meantime, wake up early as usual. Get plenty of sunlight early in the day. Tire yourself out throughout the day. Buy some earplugs. And if you have to, even move out. Or perhaps you're falling behind in your studies because between your social commitments and your work, you simply don't have the time. Are you truly working so much that you don't have the time to study? Or is it that when you are studying, you're not spending your time effectively and instead you're being distracted by the small things around you, your phone, your notification, everything? To take responsibility for your learning outcome, you should first learn how to maximize the productivity of your very limited time. In other words, you should learn how to learn. Sounds weird. Growing up, From basically kindergarten, after school, I would go to my parents' shop and I would help out. During the weekends, I would go to the shop, I would help out. During holidays, I would go to the shop, I would help out. I basically spent half of my childhood in that shop. And yet, I still managed to score extremely highly in all of my exams. Why is that? Because inadvertently, I had taught myself how to learn. Instead of chasing the how do I get the best marks? How do I answer this question? Instead, I choose to seek out the whys. Why does it work this way? Such that, for example, for math, instead of memorizing 100 different formulas and trying to remember how to apply which formula when, I simply tried to understand the logic behind those formulas so that I did not have to memorize a single thing. At worst, I would derive the formula on the spot because I had learnt how to learn. Don't chase the how of answering the question, as in, how do I get the marks? What numbers do I put in? Instead, chase the why. Why does it work this way? And that's how I take responsibility in my life for both the big and the small things. How do you take responsibility? That's it from me today. Like, subscribe, do all of those YouTubey things, and enjoy your homework. Done.